So the Q&As used to be a staple on my channel. People seem to enjoy them, but at the time I was worried that they'd be perceived as low effort. Just kind of me pumping out these really easy videos to make, but people enjoy them. So for those of you who don't know how the rules work, you leave questions down below. I pick out about 7 of them and I answer them every Monday. So let's kick this off with a question from PP Man, as well as combining that into a question from Solus Beat. So the PP Man says, Q&A, seeing as the Banished are now confirmed to be in Halo Infinite, do you think there is a possibility of playable brutes in the multiplayer? If so, do you think they could replace the elites, or would you like them to be in the game as well? And then Solus Beats asks, what do I think the role of the Banished will be in Halo Infinite? So, to answer Solus Beats' question first, before the announcement of them being in the game, I didn't expect to ever see the Banished again. I knew that they were going to be a Halo Wars thing, but seeing as a Halo Wars 3 is very unlikely, I was just like, alright, bye, Banished, I really liked you guys. I guess we're going back to Covenant Remnant faction number 387, but no, they're going to be in the game, which surprised me, so I kind of had to reevaluate a lot of my opinions going forward. So here is what I think might happen. I think we're done with Covenant factions. The Banished just might be the new antagonistic force going forward. Because that combat loop of the elites, the grunts, and the jackals, that's too strong to throw away. I know there were people saying the Prometheans will just be it going forward. There's been some pretty nonsensical theories about us fighting humans, which is just silly and ridiculous. But I think what's going to happen is, just so we can retain that combat rhythm of the elites, jackals, and grunts, I think the Banished are just going to be our new Covenant going forward, which is, that's pretty cool. I'd prefer that over just another Covenant Remnant faction. And as far as playable brutes go, so playable elites, I think, are a staple of the franchise. I think each game that does not include them has made a mistake. Elites are not just cool for customization purposes, because you do have your community that likes to be elites in the multiplayer. They organize their own clans and stuff. It's also a valuable tool to have for machinimas and just, you know, content creation in general. It's more stuff to keep the community alive, so not including elites is, in my opinion, a mistake. But as far as playable brutes go, brutes are pretty gigantic, but their body proportions are like a gigantic truck. They're very wide. And I think that so playable elites are kind of thin, and if you kind of shrink down that model a little bit, you can get the hitbox to kind of be proportionate to a human's. But a brute, if you shrunk it down, it would just kind of look like a Wookiee or something. It would look very goofy. But that being said, the same argument can be made for why playable brutes would be cool. It would be a good community tool to have. So yeah, I guess, yeah, playable brutes could be cool. I don't think they're happening, but we can dream. The next question comes from Russell Fu, who says, Q&A, besides the music and the art style, what do you think is the most important aspect of Halo's ambience and atmosphere? So this is a kind of a loaded question. I think that it can't just be one of those things. They're all kind of inseparably linked. The art style, the music, the presentation of a vista, it all needs to be working together. So I don't think I can really say that besides the music and the art style, here's what is missing. Something that I do think I hope that Infinite kind of leans more into this direction, and it seems to be the case at least, is starting with Halo 4, a lot of the Forerunner environments were being presented as more haunted, I guess? No, haunted isn't the correct word. There seemed to be less of kind of like a wonder and a magic and a mysticism, and it seemed to be more kind of overwhelming. You got kind of like a creepy sense that you were being watched, if that makes any sense. Halo 5 especially, a lot of the monk chants I thought were completely off as far as what a Forerunner environment should evoke from the player. They sounded a lot more overwhelming and imposing than they did kind of magical and mysterious. And I do also think that there is kind of Halo has seemed to forget that a choir is supposed to not sound kind of like this operatic choir with all these very expensive talent chanting. It's supposed to sound kind of like a monastery, or something that you'd hear in a temple of prayer. The kind of monastic and religious aspect of Halo's choir has kind of evaporated, and it started to sound more like generic Hollywood choirs, if that makes any sense. Halo Infinite's trailer, Discover Hope, all the music was really good for it, but what did nag me a little bit is the choir. When you saw the Halo ring, it didn't sound like a monastery's choir. It sounded just like a generic Hollywood choir. So I guess that could be kind of something that, you know, I do think is very important to Halo's atmosphere, is that those religious undertones. With Halo Reach, you started to bring in some more Middle Eastern religious chanting and stuff, which I thought was really interesting and brought a very different atmosphere to the universe. And Halo 4, as much as I didn't really like its approach to the Halo universe, it also understood a lot of the chanting. When you encounter kind of didact structures, they did sound like ancient worship. Almost like these kind of twisted and dark hymns. And then in Halo 5, it was just, you know, generic Hollywood choir. So, yeah, I don't know. Take that insane rambling for what you will. Maybe there's a little bit of an opinion in there, but there you go. The next question comes from Elijah Parsons, who says, Q&A, do you think Halo 5 was sort of a necessary evil? Without it, we wouldn't have gotten a return to the classic art style and presumably the classic gameplay. We might not have even gotten the MCC on PC. Do you think it was worth the destruction of Halo 4's story and 343's original plans for the trilogy? Okay, so I've thought a lot about the Reclaimer saga, kind of like thinking back on it now that it's kind of ended and Halo Infinite will be the start of kind of like a new direction for the series. Halo 4 I really like as a game. I don't think it really feels like a Halo game. I mean, the look of the universe, the music and stuff, it feels very different. But as a sci-fi universe, I do think it is very cool, and I would have been interested to see where Halo 4 went. If it wasn't for Halo 5 being so just, you know, Halo 5, I don't think, like, if Halo 5 didn't happen, I would have been fine with Halo 4's vision for the Halo universe. But because Halo 5 was so shocking and alienating, I have too many bad memories of the Reclaimer saga, too many negative emotions attached to that version of the Halo universe, so I'm very happy that I'll never see the Reclaimer saga again. I still very much like Halo 4, but the choices made in Halo 5 have kind of retroactively bled into that game, and I can't like it quite as much as I used to. Now, as far as kind of the community response to Halo 5 influencing Infinite's direction, absolutely 100% yes. If we didn't get Halo 5, which was just so alienating to the community that everyone started yelling at the same time about the things that they didn't like, I think a Halo 6 would have just kind of looked like Halo 5. As far as the gameplay, though, I see a lot of people making the assumption that we're gonna have classic gameplay. I mean, look, Chief's in his Halo 3 armor, that means we're gonna get that style of gameplay. No, I don't think that we will see kind of like a rollback of kind of a lot of the Call of Duty-esque enhanced mobility type gameplay. I do think Infinite is gonna play more like Halo 5 than it will a classic Halo title, because Halo 5's gameplay was well received. Obviously, you've got your kind of vocal, outpouring of people who prefer the classic titles within the Halo community, but the Halo community, or at least the vocal aspect of it, they are obviously divided into their subgroups. You've got people who do like the enhanced mobility, you've got people who don't like it, but Halo 5 is a game that sold over 5 million units, if I remember right. All 5 million or more of those people are not currently actively engaged in the community, so what we perceive as the Halo community is actually a very small portion of the people who played the game, and generally people who played the game seemed to like the gameplay. So I'm expecting Halo Infinite to play more like Halo 5. It sucks, but people who like Halo 5's gameplay, they're probably going to be happy with Infinite. Classic fans probably won't. I'm just hoping that if we are going to get a Halo 5 style gameplay, I hope the enhanced mobility is scaled back a little bit and 343 remembers to put more of a focus on the external sandbox this time around. Which brings us into a good next question. So this comes from Electron that says, Q&A. What type of vehicle levels are you hoping to see in Halo Infinite? For example, a standard Warthog in an open world-ish area like the Silent Cartographer, or a space battle, or a Scarab battle where you fight from a Scarab, etc. So the type of vehicle levels that I'm hoping to see, I'd like to see 343 focus more on multi-man vehicles. I think vehicles have consistently been one of the weakest aspects of the 343 era of the sandbox. It's all been almost exclusively one-man power trip vehicles. It's like the Mantis. It's just a one-man thing that you get in and you kill a lot of people. The Wasp, it's a one-man thing that you get in and you kill a lot of people. The Phaeton, it's a one-man thing, you get the idea. I want to see 343 branch into more multi-man vehicles from the air or the ground. I want to see the enemy faction, I guess the Banished in Halo Infinite. I want to see their arsenal expanded. Obviously the Ghost is cool, the Wraith is cool, but I want to see more stuff that involves a couple of different Banished units all commanding it and doing their own thing. Something that would be super cool, I saw somebody pitch it the other day on the Halo subreddit. In Star Wars Episode 6, as the heroes were being led to the Sarlacc pit and being forced to kind of walk the plank and jump into it, that would be a cool vehicle idea. Those kind of like hovering pirate ships. Yeah, have somebody on the command who's kind of steering it, but have people like running around and manning cannons on the side of it. Just this giant hovering platform or something. That would be a cool vehicle, because then even in multiplayer, you could have somebody piloting it. But on the deck of the thing, you could have your teammates running around and kind of, dropping or picking up weapons or ripping a turret off its thing so that they can jump down and start shooting. Just stuff like that. As far as vehicle levels go, I guess what I'd want to see is stuff that's really well executed, like the Silent Cartographer and one of the under-talked about levels, Savo Highway, which I think is one of the best paced missions in any Halo game ever. So the next question comes from I Will Find You Alberto, who says, where and when did you get the YouTube name that you have today? Okay, so Late Night Gaming was not always Late Night Gaming. Originally, it was Late Night Comms, and I was thinking comms for commentary, because there was a channel that I had followed years ago called Brain Scratch Comms, and I was like, that's a kind of cool name. I'm gonna have a name kind of like that. And the late night part of it was actually tied to a very vivid memory that I have. It's a memory that I'm constantly trying to recreate. Where the idea was I was a kid and I couldn't sleep, and well, my parents, they were asleep. So I snuck downstairs and I turned on my computer and I started playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 because I had it for the computer. And that just seeing the clock, seeing that it was 10:30 at night, hearing the crickets outside and kind of the warm bluish glow of the computer in the dark room, me in my pajamas, and just kind of the silent clicking of the mouse, because I had the game muted because I wanted to hear if my parents were getting up to come downstairs if I made noise. Just that whole atmosphere of the evening, that's what I wanted to kind of recreate into my YouTube name. And that's also partially why my old YouTube logo was kind of like a neon sign turning on. You kind of get the vibe of like an after hours diner. That's kind of the look for my logo. But yeah, that's there you go. That's a little bit of trivia about where it came from. So the next question comes from Supreme Jewish Overlord. I'm sure this has already been asked before, but what Halo game has the best sniper rifle in your opinion? And are you going to do an evolution of the sniper rifle through the Halo games? P.S. I appreciate all you do for this community. So this is going to be very weird and specific, and I don't have any stats to back up what I'm saying. I have absolutely no way to defend this opinion other than, guys, this is a weirdly specific thing that I feel. So I don't think there has ever been a perfect sniper rifle for the Halo series in terms of its feeling. I think the Halo 3 sniper rifle has the best reload out of any of them. It's the like shh sound when you drop it, and then the clink when it's put back in, and just the way that he slaps it back into the gun. I love that. I can't explain it. I can't tell you why I feel that way. It's just how I feel. But as far as the firing for it, I think the Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer sniper has the best firing sound for any sniper rifle in the series. And as far as the look, I think the Halo 2 Anniversary campaign sniper rifle or the Halo 3 sniper rifle is the best look. So I've never been happy with any sniper rifle. I've always liked parts of them, except for the Halo 4 and Halo 5 sniper rifle. I think those things look and sound awful. But yeah, that's how I feel. It's very specific, and no, I can't tell you why. So the final question comes from Nicholas Catter, who says, Q&A. Hey Taras, I'm so happy you're doing the Q&As again. I think I've watched every single one multiple times. I've wanted to ask, I've heard you use the expression, you're just centering the screen, often in your Q&As. That got me thinking, couldn't you say that about every game? Basically, could you explain what you mean when you say that a little bit more? Thanks. Okay, so I've used the expression in the past, you're just centering the screen over and over again in regards to Halo combat. And basically what that means is Halo 5 and Halo Reach, not so much in Halo 4 for reasons I'll get into, combat kind of devolves into a gigantic room with a lot of people, and really all you're doing is centering the screen and clicking. The reason for that is when it comes to Halo combat, there are three important aspects of it. It's called the golden triangle. The idea is your weapon, your melee attack, and your grenades are usually supposed to be perfectly balanced, and you should be using all three during any given firefight with the enemy. Starting with Halo Reach, the balance was slightly off, and we can explore probably why that is. One of the big takeaways, I think, is that they removed melee bleed-through damage. They also made it a little bit less important in the combat rhythm, but it started to become just a shooting gallery of centering your screen over and over and over again until everything was dead, and really the prime weapon you used was, well, the weapon in your hand. You're not really using your grenade much or your melee attack much. It's mostly just your weapon doing the job. And then in Halo 4, they fixed it a little bit by doing some tweaking to how melee attacks work, but there were still some problems with it that discouraged that golden triangle, like the elites being able to sprint away from you while firing backwards, which is just like, what? And then in Halo 5, things just kind of went off the rail, where enemies are so far away from you because of sprint. They don't want you to be able to close that gap easily, and then because of the enhanced mobility, they're very accurate because they have to compensate for kind of unpredictable player movements. So really the best way to take them out is to just center the screen over and over again until the whole room is clear and there's no golden triangle anymore. And that's kind of what I mean when I say you're just centering the screen over and over again. It's just your weapon. That's the most important thing. If you pick up an assault rifle, don't worry, you have aiming down the sights, which makes it more accurate at a range. You don't have any reason to pick up anything else. Don't worry, you don't need to get close enough to use your melee attack. Just center the screen over and over again until everything's dead. And that's kind of how I feel. I think that the weapons have been buffed up too much, and player mobility, the enhanced mobility of Halo 5 has affected the way that levels are designed, the way AI are fine-tuned to such an extent that it's just kind of like the balance is now off, and Halo needs to rediscover that. It needs to encourage the player to engage enemies with their melee attack and their grenades more. There needs to be penalties for using aiming down the sights. It can't just be rewards like, congratulations, your assault rifle, an automatic weapon, can now be fired at a long range and can kind of go toe-to-toe with battle rifles. That's not how you balance a Halo sandbox. That is entirely subjective, though. That's just my opinion on things. I'd be curious to hear you guys say your opinions. And that kind of brings us to the end of it. It's been a really long time since I've done this. This is fun. Okay, so we're going to be doing this again next Monday. Leave questions down below, and hopefully they'll be answered next week, and I will see you guys on the next video.